In addition to the basic DIC payment, I understand that the surviving spouse can receive additional compensation over and above the basic DIC payment. Is that true? Please explain. Thanks. Carrie, I think you just kind of explained that, but if you want to go over that again.
Yeah, so there's right, and I think that's what this question is asking. So you've got the basic rate, the enhanced rate. For the enhanced rate, picture. I think the example I gave is if you're if the veteran's 100% for 10 years or more, DIC is automatic. So that's one way to look at it. If you're married for 8 of those years, you get the enhanced rate of DIC, which is about $250, $300 more per month. The other way to get additional DIC is if the surviving spouse needs aid and attendance, and that's the same thing. You have to show you have to show the need for aid and attendance, just like a veteran would have to show the inability to feed yourself, dress yourself, bathe yourself, that type of stuff, and that you need assistance in doing that stuff. And there's an ANA rate at that point. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I think those are the only rates that I recall. So your basic rate, enhanced rate, and your ANA. I say that's the only rate. If the surviving spouse has minor children, then that rate's going to go up based on how many minor children you have. So that can go.
Not necessarily just minor, also dependent children.
Right.
Dependent children.
Yeah.
And then with that, I also want to say, let's say the surviving spouse is the one that comes in and receives the DIC. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, that if the surviving spouse is to pass away, if there are dependent children, they can then go in and take that DIC benefit from the claimant.
Right, as long as there are dependents, and that's Ursula saying the key word there. What does VA consider a dependent child? Typically that's going to be a child under the age of 18 or under the age of 23 and in school, but it could also be a helpless child. So don't necessarily
also
have to
dependent parents. Yeah.
Right.
And they go in order. So let's say you've got a surviving spouse and dependent parents, and both dependent parents and surviving spouse file for the DIC benefit. It goes first to the spouse, and then I'm not sure if it goes parents or children.
It goes children, because parents would have to show that they meet the income threshold. There's an income threshold for parents to be considered dependents, and if they're above that, then they can't be considered dependents. So you don't see that very much.
That kind of situation is, if let's say Carrie and I were married and my dad is living with us and he's totally dependent on us, and then I die, then I have a dependent parent. And so, just kind of keep that in mind. And then also that's true for substitution. So even if there are pending claims and you file for DIC and substitution, if during the pendency of the claims the spouse dies, dependent children or dependent parents can also step in for substitution for the accrued benefits.
Yeah, and Nate just put a number up there that reminded me of something, and I'm sorry, I should remember this. The at least for the children, and I'd have to look the figures up for other folks, but the dependent children rate under DIC is generally a little more than your typical vet's going to get for dependent children. I think about $400 a month. I have a client who had a COVID poor situation, a young couple, but a lot of kids, right? He got sick and he passed away, and they still had a pretty high number of minor children. And I was shocked at the DIC rates you got. And it dawned on me, I was like, oh, wait, usually you don't see surviving spouses with dependent children because they're usually older. And that reminded me that, yeah, the dependent rate for children for DIC is higher than your typical dependent rate. If you're rated 10% or 30%, so something that.
And with that, especially with the younger or, people with younger children or kind of in that college era, one of the really good benefits that comes with being 100% permanent total and the DIC is the education benefits that come. So, and it's something that if things get applied retroactively and your kids have just come out of college, these are things to look at. It's a really good benefit. All right, sorry.